When it comes to recruiting, a big part of getting recruited is getting seen by coaches. And with the season getting cut short, with tournaments being canceled during this off season, players that are juniors and maybe even seniors that are worried about their opportunity because coaches can't see them right now, and for a while couldn't even interact with them. If I'm correct on that, what are some things they can do to get seen by these coaches, or to at least open some communication with them?
Yeah, well, all players can call coaches. There's no rules against that. If you're in sixth grade, you can call some coaches right now. Like you can call out if you're before a freshman. I think the date is June 10th. I'm sorry, a sophomore. Once a sophomore gets into June 10th, they'll be considered a junior. Now the coaches can call you, but everybody before that. So if you're a freshman right now and you desire some recruiting and stuff, and or we're not to that June 10th day right now for your sophomores, they can call as many coaches as they want. And every single college coach's email and office phone number is on their website. And you can go on the, or University of Oregon's men's basketball, go onto their roster down at the bottom. They'll have all the coaches' information to be there. If it's not there, go into staff directory on the athletics website, go down, find the coaches, cut and paste, put it in the email. I mean, I had to do this to write college coaches when I was in college, in high school, and then type it out. So like now you got to, I think, call, email as much as possible, and that can help generate your recruiting. I think what we're talking about is a pride thing right now. You want to be like, Carmelo Anthony or Lonzo Ball or something, and just let the coaches come to you, man. I think that's great if that could happen. But if not, there's a way that now you can go out and contact the schools, especially in this period, because they can't come out to see you. And for a period of time, they couldn't contact you. They just lifted it up. Now they can have some contact over the phone and what we're doing now. But bombard these coaches. And I think it would set you aside as a player. Coaches are not expecting for teenagers to make calls. They're not expecting that.
Well, with the internet now, I know you're just a little bit older than me, not too much, but when we were coming up, the internet wasn't this crazy thing where you could go find all the information you wanted. I mean, at that time, most junior college probably didn't even have a sports website for their athletic programs. I know for me, you talked about writing letters to coaches. For me, I had my high school coach get some numbers for me so I could call coaches. But even then, it was like four. I had like four schools I called to try to get in, and luckily one called back.
Hey, but look at that, man. It's just like hustling, It's like
Yeah, yeah,
Future trying to sell his tapes out of his trunk and stuff, and you just do the math. If you want some schools recruiting you, you did four, one came back. If you did eight, two or three would have. You did
yeah,
48, you know.
yeah. But now with email, with Twitter, with all these platforms you could have, you could make it your full time job just to write emails to coaches all day. You could probably get like 10, 20 in a day if you're diligent with it. And if you're really that serious about trying to get recruited and it's not happening yet, get yourself out there to them, make contact with them.
We in the quarantine right now, Espinoza, 10 to 20, that's lazy. Get a hundo in. There's 354 or so Division I schools. There's thousands of schools out there. Junior college, NAI Division II, NAI Division I, NCAA Division III, NCAA Division II, NCAA Division I, National Junior College, NWAC Community College, the Idaho, Oregon, Washington, California Community College. There's so many options. I just had to have a pretty candid conversation with two players this week that I'm assisting them a little bit with their recruiting, and they hit me and said, "Hey, have the coaches hit you back or something? Have you heard anything?" And I almost responded, and I pushed pause on my response, and I said, my question was, "Have you contacted any coaches?" He answered it some different way. I had to keep cutting and pasting that same one. You still haven't answered my question. Have you contacted? And he kind of came back, no. And it's going, okay. how can you be upset about your recruiting if you have not taken the time to work on your recruiting at all? You expected it to come in. Did you average 50 this year? I mean, if you average that, maybe some schools can be beating your door down. But other than that, I mean, 20 points doesn't do it for you anymore, Espinoza. There's a lot of people that average 20 points. You know what I mean? So I think what could set a person apart is if they're contacting all these schools, most players are not going to do that. Just in itself, that's going to say, I had a kid that did it this week. Man, I'm a transparent person. A player, he did it this week. He hadn't contacted any schools. I let him know to do that. 12 schools are now in contact. Like he said, I've been texting and stuff with him the last couple of days. Isn't that amazing when you went out and he called like 40 or 50 schools, and now you've generated your recruiting. It's not that you're not a good enough player. How can somebody recruit you if they don't know you? They've never seen you. And another thing, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but this is hindering players recruiting. The mixtape. The mixtapes are rap.
Well, that brings up a good question. What kind of film do college coaches want to see? Do they want to see clips or do they want to see a full game?
To initiate, it's kind of like you don't eat dinner first; you get your appetizer. So the highlight film, the clips, that just to get them a little, appetizer, just to get them in to see you, and then you can give them a full game tape. But they don't want to hear Lil Uzi Vert. They don't want to hear the new Gunna song, and they don't want to see in slow mo. They don't want to see you do the thing with your friends like that, the new handshake before the game. Just get to it. And so I think that you should showcase kind of like an NBA draft highlight where they show you deflection. They show them like dive for a loose ball. They show them get a rebound, push it up the floor, kick it. They show them out the post. They show them defend the post. So they show you like these 9 or 10 different scenarios to show you what type of player you really are. But if you're a guy that doesn't score it that much, don't send a highlight film of all your buckets because that's not who you are. Maybe you might need to show yourself taking charge after charge and getting rebounds and outletting it, or showing yourself pressuring people. That's good. That's going to open up a coach's eyes,
Well, and you can break it down like a scout tape almost for yourself, where this is me on defense, this is me blocking out, this is how I pass the ball, and you can show your coach different aspects of your game.
A true depiction of who you are, not this. It's gone so far, and we've gone so far down the line that it's to the point to where when somebody makes the mixtape, I don't even think they know what they do. They just know they need to find the best new song, find some slow-mo, get the graphics on there, and then it's a rap. And it's like, is this helping your recruiting? That's what it's to be for. This is not to, but I think it's got to where they just post it on the social media that it gives them some love and makes them feel good. I'd rather all the players, peers hate me, but I'm getting recruited. Like, get the right love.
Definitely. As a young player, freshman, sophomore, and they're trying to set themselves up for the future. Maybe they're not starting on the varsity as a freshman. Maybe they're on the freshman team. Maybe they're on the JV team as a sophomore. But they want to set themselves up for the future because they really want to play in college. Aside from working on their game and becoming a better player, are the things they can do to maybe kind of jumpstart the process of having schools look at them?
Yes, and like we mentioned, all players can do it. Doesn't matter if you're freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. All players can call college coaches. But if I was a freshman or a sophomore right now, and I've got goals to play in college, and I feel like I'm a varsity player, I play a good role on that varsity team, I can see myself moving that direction. Why not start to contact schools now? But also understand this: once you open up that can of worms, if you're not ready, you're now going to be getting evaluated like that. So and that's the part with AAU. Don't put yourself out there too soon if you're not ready, because if you're ready, now they have a scout on you. You know what I mean? They didn't have a scout on Ja Morant before that, but then once he was at Murray State, now they have a scout on you. They didn't know him before then, so it's fresh. Had they maybe been watching him beforehand, maybe it wouldn't have been as shocking. Does that make sense? So there's a number of just in the state right now. I think we've got maybe about 4 or 5 freshmen that if they continue to develop the right way, they could be getting recruited and playing in college, potentially at the Division I level. If I'm them, the coaches can't call you now, so you're sitting back and waiting for nothing. You might as well start get a notebook, write down what schools would I really like to go to, what realistically I can see myself playing at here in about 3 years, and you could send an email out for them. All coaches today are with their computer in front of them and have their phone on them in this quarantine. And I know that because I'm talking to multiple college coaches throughout the day at all times of the day. It's not like business times. Coaches are hitting me at 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. It doesn't matter. They're right next to their devices.
What are things that coaches are looking for? Players always want the scoring numbers. They want the stats. They want that type of stuff. But what are coaches really looking for in a player when it comes to getting them to the next level?
Yeah, I think the first and foremost, how hard do you play? How hard do you play? That's what they want to see. And for myself, but I've also been corroborating and getting this from college coaches. One of the biggest things they're saying is that they feel like they want to see players that know the game, but they feel like the issue is that a lot of players in today's day don't know the game, don't know how to play basketball. So when we talk about basketball IQ, so I think playing hard and knowing how to play the game. Now, there's a lot of talented players sometimes or skilled players, but everybody doesn't play hard. And maybe a guy that's not as skilled, he play harder, could potentially get some notoriety. But I think you got to combine those together, the working hard, and playing smart. And that's what I believe is the two most important things in the game: conditioning and basketball IQ. If you can get a handle and a master on those, you're gonna be killing a lot of birds with one stone. You don't want to be a gray area while you're not being recruited. So I'm trying to make it as clear as possible. Play hard and play smart. And we mean, well, if there's 100 possessions, play hard on all 100. Don't play hard on 70 and relax. Play 50% on the last 30. But that's hard. You got to get yourself in condition to do that.
Most players, I would say, that want to play in college, their goal is D1, and rightfully so. I mean, you should reach for the highest level. Not all players are Division I players though, and some of them later it takes them a little longer to realize that, and they might be missing out on opportunities. So even if D1's my goal and I'm a junior, and I'm only hearing from NAIA, D3, maybe a couple D2, how should I approach that if I really still want to play D1?
I think you got to do your due diligence and open up and see what options I have. If you are really gung ho, like I love to dream, hoop dreams. I love it. And so if you're not being recruited D1 right now, you're a junior. That's pretty clear cut. And we're not, any D1s aren't even really contacting you. If you're just getting calls and stuff, that's not serious. You could go to junior college, community college. That could give you an opportunity to kind of come in the back door. There's a player that's in the state right now, Jesse White, who was committed to Western Oregon, a Division II school in the state, and then had been thinking long and hard about it, wanted to follow his dream and believes he could play Division I basketball. And so he decommitted from Western Oregon and now is going to go to Eastern Utah Junior College in Price, Utah, which is a national junior college in Region 18, and give himself a good chance to go play Division I basketball. If not the worst case scenario, I believe he'll fall back to Division II. But my gut feeling, because of the position he's in right now, what he's done in high school and the type of player he is right now, I think he's going to get an opportunity to play Division I basketball coming out of Eastern Utah. But you got to be prepared for that to happen. But that's an option. If not, you need to go down the road and look at all the D2s, D3s, NAI Division 1s, NAI Division 2s. And these are some good schools that have good coaching, that playing good leagues that you can look back on your career and feel proud about. It doesn't have to be I know guys that played D1 that went D1 didn't play that much, but they got the D1 experience. They come back and say they would rather have played.
Yeah, and that's that's something that each individual should have to answer for themselves. Like, do you really want to just have that title of D1 and not play just so you can be at the high level, or would you rather play and be part of a producing for a team? And that's every individual is different, and some perfectly fine with going to a big school and just practicing, and that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. But you gotta answer that for yourself.
Well, I got a player that I used to work with that now is a coach, Jeff Christensen, and he had D1 dreams. He's about a 6'3" to 6'4" guard, and he played at Wilson High School at the time, back with Ian Anderson, and he ended up uh, going to Lewis and Clark, and he played there for 3 years. And he had been like an all-league guy there in the Northwest Conference, and he got towards the senior year. He said, "Man, I want to go D1," and he transferred to Eastern Washington and walked on. That man played in the rotation there his senior year, and then after that, went and played overseas in Iceland and Norway, and then coached in Norway, came back coaching the G League, and now that dude runs his own training business down in Burbank, California called Showcase Basketball. Um, I think that's a model of how you sustain your career. And he got in where he fit in at each level until he was ready. And when he really felt he was ready, he went after it, and it all worked out. But if you would have asked me in high school when I was working with him, would he play pro ball? No. That man played pro ball and coached pro ball and now runs his own training business.
And sometimes you got to be honest. Like, some people don't have physically what it takes to play their position at the next level. And when I was at Southern Oregon and we'd go play D1 schools, what I noticed was the guys that I was guarding, it wasn't like they were much better than me, but they had 2-3 inches on me. Their wingspan was a good 8 inches longer, maybe 10 inches longer than mine, and they could jump higher than me. And that was really it. I mean, they weren't necessarily, too much quicker than me. They definitely couldn't shoot as good as me. But and I think I just realized that, like, physically, no college coach is gonna look at me and say, "That's a Division 1, 2, or 3." I just physically didn't have the tools.
Well, and you just gotta, like you said, you gotta find out where you get in, where you fit in, where you can make plays. But with this recruiting stuff right now, like the biggest things I would really, I'm not trying to speak for anybody, but like if I had to make an answer right now, what I believe most young players are doing, I think they're sitting back and like this is a normal spring into summer, and the coaches they'll eventually call me or whatever, and it's like, the transfer portal. I'll try to touch on that a little bit. Like there's almost 1,000 players in it. In a few weeks here, they're supposed to pass a bill by the NCAA that allows players when they transfer to be
Yes.
eligible right away. That's going to make the transfer portal grow and even a few more hundred players. So now if I'm a high school player, which players do you think are lowest on the totem pole? If you can get D1 to D1 transfers, JUCO transfer, you got this whole transfer portal thing, graduate transfers, or you got high school kids. So if I was a high school kid, I wouldn't be sitting back. Now's the time to work harder than you ever have on your recruiting, because there's more competition now with this transfer portal going on. And I hope I didn't confuse like players with that, but this is the sign of the times and where we're at right now. So I think you got to know about this stuff.
It's definitely important to know about all aspects of it, because the reality is most players are not going to be the blue chip recruits that have all these coaches just begging them to come to their school. Most players are going to be lucky to get 1 or 2 scholarship offers. That's just the reality. And there are big recruits that get multiple offers, but there are more ways around it. And if you think that just because you are a decent player for your team that you're going to get all these opportunities, it's probably not going to happen. I think it's important for players in different ways. So I think we should close by just sharing our stories, how we got to college, because I think we both have unique stories. And for me, I played JV as a junior, played 1 year of varsity basketball. Like I said, I was a screener. I was a rebounder. I'd get a shot every now and then. And I wasn't the type of guy that coaches are going to look at and say, "Oh, we need that guy on our college team." I was an undersized post in high school. So I asked my high school coach, "Hey, can I get some phone numbers for some junior colleges around? Because I really want to play basketball." So I called 4 schools, got one call back, and that was SWAC, Southwestern Oregon Community College in Coos Bay. Drove there for a little visit, played in an open gym, and the things that separated me was I could shoot from threes, and the coach there happened to like 3-pointers. But back then, not all coaches liked it. He wanted shooters, and I played D. I mean, I wasn't the quickest guy at that time. I wasn't too athletic yet, but I really concentrated on playing defense, and he noticed that. So those two things, he said, "Come play for us. We want you to play for us." And those 2 years were huge for me. I mean, there's nothing to do in Coos Bay but be in the gym. So I was in the gym all the time. Got started getting quicker. Finally could dunk a little bit. And then my sophomore year, I was actually getting recruited, which was like pretty exciting for me because I didn't have that in high school. And multiple NAIA schools and D3 schools, a couple D2 schools, and finally I chose Southern Oregon, and I was able to finish my college career there.
Real good school for players out there.
Yeah. So how about yourself? I know you talked about writing letters. I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I don't know what our age there. I graduated in '95, but back then they had this thing that was it was a big thick book called the Blue Book.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, the internet started when I was a freshman in high school, so that wasn't something I could use for my recruiting. So they had this big blue book that had every college in it. Didn't matter from D1 to Clark College in Vancouver. They had all the colleges in there, and so I literally opened that book up, write down the schools that I was going to write. And I mean, it was somewhere between like 40 and 50 schools that, I wrote out a letter, I typed it out, and then I copied that, put it in envelopes, licked it. You had to write down on each envelope where I'm sending it to.
You had to buy the stamps.
Huh?
You had to buy the stamps.
I'm telling you the truth, man. Like, I could probably find my little booklet in my little box I keep my stuff in, to where I had the list of all that stuff. Like Paul Biancardi was one of the guys. I don't know if you know him. He's an ESPN analyst now, but at the time he coached at Boston College. So I'm just tying it all back together. Like, I just, every single school, man, and just wrote them out. I was getting letters back and stuff like that to at least just start the process. And so I played JV as a junior, made varsity my freshman year. I'm sorry, my senior year. Only time was like a jack of all trades. I could guard the post. I could be in playing the perimeter, whatever. Just do all the little things enough to just stay on the floor. And I mean, I think back now, I sent a game film of myself scoring 6 points, and that got me into college. And we beat the #1 team in the state, but it was me out there defending and doing all little small things. So I know that works. And I got an interesting college career. I played at College of the Desert my freshman year, which is in Palm Desert, California. My sophomore year, I came back here and played at Clark College. And then I played a Division II ball at a place called Belmont Abbey in Charlotte, North Carolina. And then finished my last year at Cascade College. And that's where I played there with Tyrone Manlove. And, man, we had kind of a weird group of guys, but that was it, man. And all my experiences with basketball, like, I don't look bad at it as bad or none. They were all such experiences that helped me now to become a coach that I am, that I've gotten to see basketball from all different angles, learn what to do, what not to do. I started the game as a freshman playing the center. You know what I mean? Like, so I've seen it from so many different angles. Yeah, and then going to junior college, when, like you said, it felt good because not getting to be recruited in high school, getting that, but I could put a feather in my cap knowing that I had a hand in that. I worked for that with my work ethic, but also I didn't sit back and wait for the recruiting. And so kids these days, I think if they put the effort into that, they will be really surprised with how their recruiting would turn, because I think coaches are looking for a player to do that. Most guys, if you text them, any teenager today, if you say, "Hey, how you doing?" "Hey, what's going on with you today?" "Nut." You understand that this is how it sounds via text. You won't know unless you're talking to them. And so I would challenge players, whether you're in high school or college, to learn how to have a conversation with someone. When you're writing something back, if it's very short, that's how that person is taking it. Now, players do this with college coaches. They don't just do it with guys like me and you, Espinoza. they're also doing this with college coaches. They're also not hitting college coaches back. So I would encourage these guys to try to change, and girls to change their how they're communicating with coaches. Call them. Be respectful. Treat them like an adult or an authority person. You know, they're not your peer. Don't, what's going on? How are you doing, sir? Thank you so much for calling me or recruiting me. I greatly appreciate it. This will go a long way with helping your recruiting.
There's always a way in, and bottom line, you got to be able to play. If you can't play, it's going to be a little harder to get in. But there's always a way in, and it might not be the way you think. You might not have coaches knocking on your door and calling you all the time. You might need to do that for yourself so that you can get seen and that they can understand, like, oh, this guy can play, this girl can play. We want them on our team. But there's always a way in, and sometimes it takes a little more initiative. Before we wrap up, what are 3 things that every player right now, after they hear this, can go and do immediately?
Well, first of all, go get your conditioning right. All right, now go run. I just watched a video yesterday of a guy running 4 laps, a mile, in 4 minutes and 37 seconds while dribbling a basketball. I watched the video. So you go work on your conditioning, work on your basketball IQ, and then if you're a player that wants to play in college, or you're moving down that road, you're playing varsity, you're a role player, you want to start contacting some of these schools. Write down a list, maybe start with 10 to, you don't got to do it, but move your way up, then go to 20. But we have so much time right now, to say I'm busy, that's not an answer that's sufficient for any of us today. Any adults, players, coaches, it's just not a sufficient answer. Nobody's that busy right now.
Let's get to it. Look.